Hey friends, final day of week 4. How are we this far already? I hope you've been learning a lot. I hope you're encouraged. It's okay if you're slightly overwhelmed. It's a lot to take in, but just remember you can just take bits at a time to implement. Not everything. And then little bits more later and a little bit more later. It doesn't have to be all or nothing or all at once. So pace yourself, it's okay. But let's talk today about passion versus burnout. If you haven't been there already, at some point, you're going to hate what you do. You are going to hit a wall where this all feels completely useless and completely futile, and you're going to feel like it doesn't make a difference anymore, or what you're doing doesn't matter, or that, and it could either be all those internal kinds of things, or it could be something external where it's hit after hit after hit of a team member, or somebody is going to quit that you had a lot of stock put in, or since he's going to make a decision you don't agree with, or just a million different things. But you're going to hit a moment where you're making a choice to either keep going or be done. And you're probably not going to hit that moment only once. You're going to hit it so many times. The biggest difference comes when people keep going, because what you can do after that moment makes a lot of difference. So how do we make it easier in moments of lowness? How do we make it easier to keep going? How do we make it easier to choose to move forward instead of quit? So we're all going to hit a moment of burnout. Just realize that that is true. And people on your team are going to hit moments of burnout. Some of them are going to keep going through it, and some of them are going to quit. This is a very transient business. And that's the beauty of it and the curse of it, right? Is because people can do it for a season, but then also people might only do it for a season, right? However, because of how transient and how flowing it is, there's the potential for huge income. And so we have to be very aware of the fact that burnout happens to everyone, and what we're going to do about it. First of all, for ourselves, so we can figure out how to help others. So this is where passion comes in. The easiest point of passion for anyone is when they first start. And then more passion comes when they hit some goals, or when people on their team hit goals. And you have these little tiny motivators and these little affirmations that tell them they're doing a great job. But how do we, without good things happening and awards not being earned and people not joining or people quitting, how do we still feed that passion? We have to always have an anchor. We have to figure out what the reason we chose this business has to be true always. The reason we love this business needs to be an anchor. And just the things that we like to do in it have to be an anchor. So I would say some of my personal anchors for Scentsy. So when everything else is going crazy, what do I hold fast to that drives me? I'm held fast to the fact that I run into people constantly that don't know what Scentsy is. So even if people on my team are quitting, there's endless opportunity if I'm willing to go out and get it. So the endless opportunity, I think, is really huge for me. And I hold on to that a lot because I'm constantly running into people that don't know what Scentsy is. Every time I go out on a Scentsy trip, not a single person at the airport has any idea what Scentsy is. There's a lot of people out there that don't know what it is. And so that, to me, is a personal challenge because I know that I don't possibly talk to as many people as I could. And so because I know that that's true about me, I know that there's always opportunity. Another thing that anchors me is the fact that I will always get paid for what I sell, period. So even if I can't depend on other people in my business, if I can hit the ground peddling the products, I will get paid for everything I sell. So if there's moments in my business where I lose generational pay, but I do know that if I have to, I can make up the difference by what I sell. So I will just make sure that I'm constantly smelling my testers. I know that sounds crazy, but fragrance is so huge. Fragrance is what we do. And if we're not smelling things, sometimes we forget what we do. That sounds really dumb, but you're going to have a moment where you're going to be like, yeah, I haven't smelled my testers in a while. There was like a whole year where I don't think I smelled my testers, and I couldn't figure out why. I just didn't care about what was happening. And then I realized it's because I forgot that we sell a product. Like my PRV was so low, and I was having like no parties, and I was focusing only on my team. And there's not a lot of scent involved in coaching, right? And so I realized that I'd fallen completely out of love with the actual product I was selling. Like I forgot that the product we sell is the vehicle on which the rest of this moves. Like it's not, it's completely codependent, right? And so if I'm not smelling stuff and I'm not getting scents under noses, there's no way that I can be an effective leader. If I'm not working to make sure I'm constantly falling in love with and using our products, there's no way I can be an effective leader. I can't coach people to sell products that I'm not in love with. Because at the end of the day, we are a product company too. And I think sometimes we tend to be a people-only company. And sometimes at the end of the day, the product's all you got. The product is unchanging in a way that we can depend on. The fragrance is always delicious. There's always that hit of just bliss when you change your wax. These are constant things I know I can count on. So sometimes when I'm having a really bad day, it's my motto is hashtag change your wax and just relax. Like, change your wax. I would say when you're really unmotivated in your business and you're having a really hard time, when was the last time you changed your wax? When was the last time you did Scentsy laundry? When was the last time you used your counter clean and just put your face to the counter and gave it a whiff? The passion that we have for our products should spill out of us because we're using them enough to where they're a huge part of our life and we can't help but share it with others. And this is just one of those foundational steps, which is why it's so important to make sure that we're building strong foundations, because if we keep trying to build a house on top of bad PRV and low recruiting, it's just going to fall apart. It's just not going to happen. And so the passion in this business has to come from those foundational things, right? We have to be able to find the fun in the foundational areas. And if we can create a passion towards that, we will find we burn out a lot less, because most of your burnout in this business is going to come from personal conflict. It's going to come from people who say one thing and do another. It's going to come from feeling like you're pushing the same like cart full of bricks up the same hill over and over and over again, and not ever having it roll down the other side at a really fast pace. When you're pushing people who don't want to move, when you are texting that front line that said they wanted so much and they're ghosting you, that's burnout is going to come piece by piece by piece. It's going to come through rejection. It's going to come through things you're making yourself do that you hate doing, like begging people for things and pushing people who don't want to be pushed, and conflict resolution on your team, and dealing with people who won't help themselves. That's where a lot of your burnout is going to come from. But a lot of your passion can be fueled by the foundation, because if you are in love with the product and you're using the product and you just obsess over ways to share it, and you find all of the things in your business that you have fun doing and you focus on doing more of those things, the passion's going to come back. When you remember that the product is still good, the product is very reasonably priced for a direct sales product if you've ever looked at anyone else's catalog in the history of ever. And our compensation plan is one of the best. And you just start reminding yourself of the truths of what Scentsy is, what our product is, what's possible with Scentsy, and just keep reminding yourself of those things. It gets a lot easier to deal with the rest, because so many of the things that burn us out are so temporary in the grand scheme of everything that we can let them derail us completely, or we can just remember that this will be done with soon. We're going to keep going on. And so one thing that's going to help with your tendency towards burnout is like yesterday where we talked about setting boundaries. and keeping that schedule. Doing coaching calls instead of being available 24/7. Setting reasonable expectations with your team. Teaching people to fish so that you're not always on call and answering the same question over and over and over and over again. Focusing on the people on your team, your top 20%. And not the people you think should be your top 20%, but the people who, when you run that report, the numbers are speaking that that person's in your top 20%. Some of the people you're spending all your time on are not in there. But when you spend your time on your top 20%, you're going to be encouraged by their passion for Scentsy. It's infectious. Bringing new people into Scentsy, infectious. Sharing products with people for the first time and watching them fall in love, infectious. New catalog seasons, infectious. Smelling new fragrances you've never smelled before, infectious. Just immersing yourself in the things that are actually going to bring you progress. But when we get lost in the sauce of the things that aren't actually money makers and they're actually just drains, you're going to feel really burnt out. But if you can keep falling in love with those little bits of just magic, when somebody tries Scentsy for the first time, when somebody finds a new aroma they love, when somebody is speechless over a fragrance they've just smelled, when a team member has that light bulb moment, when somebody reaches their goals, when you focus on your top 20% and you can see the things you telling them matter and clicking and making a difference, when you obsess over how many people you could possibly bring the opportunity and the products to. So again, your foundation is where your passion is going to come from. And if you don't have a solid foundation, your burnout's going to be faster, stronger, it's going to last longer because you just don't have the base where you can anchor yourself, where you can find your comfort, where you can remind yourself of the truths about what you do when you have people making you believe lies about it, because there's going to be people who they don't want to see you succeed because they are not, and they're going to do everything they can to tear you down. You're going to have people on your team blame you for the fact that they don't succeed, even though we all have the same resources. So find ways to protect your foundation. Find ways to protect the truth about what you do and the love you have for what you do. For me, sometimes it's writing it down, smelling my testers, changing my wax, getting immersed in the product so that I'm reminded about what it is that I actually do. What you actually do is you share an industry-leading product that brings joy to people, it reminds them of memories they had when they were kids, usually good ones, and then watching their eyes light up when they see new catalogs, having people message you because they need more, like having people decide to take a chance on Scentsy and change the story of their family. I love watching consultant stories. I love going to YouTube and listening to people's Scentsy stories. I am motivated and energized by other people succeeding. So that's another truth for me. Because if it works for one person, which is a truth I know is real, is if it works for one person, it can work for anyone. The only difference is what I'm willing to do with it, about it, etc. So what are you going to do to protect your passion? What are you going to do to protect the truth? The things you know are real in your business, the things you know that are real about you. I would love for you guys to make a list below about your favorite things about Scentsy. And it doesn't have to be deep. It can be black raspberry vanilla. It can be counter clean is life changing. It can be the fact that every time you've given somebody a sample of washer whiffs, they're in love. What are the things you know are true about Scentsy? It can be Heidi Norville. It can be that our compensation plan's the best ever. It can be the fact that you get paid to help people pay their cell phone bills and to help them put their kids in sports. Whatever your favorite thing about what you do is, write it down below. I'm excited to share our passions with each other. But like I've said, throughout these weeks, I hope you'll realize that so many of these lessons have been about protecting your passion and finding ways to prevent your burnout. Because if you're setting boundaries right and you're finding your tribe and you're finding mentors and you're really putting yourself out there and immersing yourself in Scentsy and you're having others help you protect the time you need for your business, you're going to have a lot easier time staying passionate. So comment below with all of your favorite things about Scentsy. And then anything else that you have relating to this topic, I'd love to hear about, because I want this to be a conversation we can have with each other. Bye, guys.